Good evening. You're watching On the Table live on my TV, saluran Berita RTM, channel 123 and Berita RTM YouTube channel. I'm your host, Otto Othman. Budget 2026 marks the first under the 13th Malaysia Plan and possibly the last before the next general election. Now, with spending rising to 419 billion ringgit and the deficit narrowing slightly to 3.5% of GDP, can Malaysia strike the right balance between fiscal discipline and growth? Now, to discuss this exciting road ahead, in the studios we have Mr. Harvinder Singh, Council Member, Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia. Welcome to the studio. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Otto. It's great to be here. Yeah.
Now, without further ado, I'd like to ask this first question. When it comes to Budget 2016, now, it seems that the confidence, when it comes to confidence, right, to begin with, Budget 2016 is very tightening its belt. So can you please tell us the balance between those two?
I think Budget 2026 is basically what we call as supposed to demonstrate the government's fiscal discipline, and I would describe it as a pragmatic budget, one that is pro-growth, but at the same time ensuring that fiscal sustainability is there as well. And there's this commitment to reduce the GDP, the deficit ratio to GDP of to 3% in 2028. So along those lines, the idea of having a deficit, of 3.5% relative to the GDP is, I think, obviously sort of an effort towards inching that goal of reaching 3% eventually. It is, when it comes to the signals that you give to investors, basically, it shows that the government is serious about debt management and ensuring long-term stability as well. So, at the same time, it is also important, of course, to ensure that the welfare of the Rakyat and the continued support for the Rakyat is there. And development expenditure needs to be taken care of as well. And spending for development is important because it has this multiplier effect, right, of spiraling the economy as well, economic activities that can be undertaken. So when you spend on development expenditure, long-term development expenditure, it helps to basically allow for the other subsectors, economic activity to take place. So that is also being taken care of. So I find that the goal of the budget is not overt austerity. It is smart spending to try to get the best out of your every ringgit to sort of drive the growth and benefit people directly as well. And I think by having effective subsidy retargeting, and of course there's a need to maybe have better procurement efficiency as well, and curbing leakages, right? This will be critical again to showcase Malaysia's resilience and to maintain investor confidence.
A lot, especially when it comes to the US tariffs. Now, Mr. Harvinder Singh, as Prime Minister said, we've chosen the more difficult road, one of strict fiscal discipline and also reform. So how do you see this approach? It's a good balance between steering Malaysia's economy and also reducing its deficit? What do you think?
Well, I think choosing the path of reform was important, and it had to come at some point or other. And we've had blanket subsidies and blanket exemptions as well for a very long time. And it was quite clear that this cannot continue for too long because there's too much of burden on the fiscal spending from the government. So choosing fiscal discipline during these uncertain global times, talk about the US tariffs, there's the slowdown from the China perspective, a lot of other geopolitical uncertainties as well. Basically, it reflects the government's focus on resilience over short-term gains. And Malaysia is opting for structural reforms to strengthen its fundamentals, diversifying the economy, improving tax efficiency, and reducing dependence on subsidies as well. I think the last few years there have been a spate of tax measures, new taxes that have been introduced, e-invoicing has been rolled out, and it is expected that the benefits of all these rollouts and introductions in terms of additional tax collections should start kicking in from next year as well. So that will help to a large extent. So the balancing act of maintaining growth while trying to reduce the deficit is going to ensure that assist to build credibility, attract long-term investments, and I think hopefully make the economy more shock resistant as well.
We hope so too, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Harvin, what about the subsidy rationalization, especially for RON 95?
Yeah.
It's finally here, and it's expected to save the government about 15.5 billion ringgit this year. In your view, how can these savings be channeled back into the economy to support the Rakyat while keeping the long-term goal of fiscal reform on track?
Yeah, I think this is actually an amazing amount of savings, I believe, by having these targeted subsidies, etc., starting with the RON 95 and other rationalization exercises as well. And basically, these monies that are saved can be used, channeled into targeted assistance to those groups that really need such assistance, to have direct cash transfers for the low-income groups to help with the cost of living issues, improve public transport, investments in education and healthcare, of course. And so redirecting subsidies in this way ensures that support reaches those that are truly in need of it, and at the same time freeing this fiscal space for development spending and sustainable financial reform, fiscal reform.
What about, Budget 2026 introduces Malaysia's first ever carbon tax, starting with iron, steel and energy sectors next year. Yeah. From a tax policy perspective, how ready do you think are Malaysian industries and our tax system to implement and monitor this kind of green effectively?
I think, firstly, it's something that's probably going to be very new for many, many parties, carbon tax. It's a sort of a major policy shift, but it's in line with the requirement to ensure, environmental sustainability as well, and to show its commitment to reducing carbon emissions. And so readiness, of course, will depend on industry adaptation as well, and the capacity of the tax administration to deal with these new taxes, something altogether new that has to be learned by all parties. And the initial focus on energy-intensive sectors like iron and steel is a smart, phased approach. But however, industries will obviously need clear guidelines and measurement frameworks, incentives for emission reduction as well. So it's just not just a revenue tool, it's actually a push for green transition and aligning with ESG standards, which is critical for competitiveness in global trade. And I think most export-oriented industries, especially the energy-intensive ones, as well as the E&E sector, right, would be price sensitive, and therefore a carbon tax can actually erode global competitiveness if the peers do not match or if border adjustments are absent. So there's quite a bit of work to be done in terms of getting the right framework in place to ensure that this can be effective and does not overpriced as compared to the competition or compared to the region.
I think that's the real question over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
yeah.
We're talking to Mr. Harvinder Singh, Council Member of Chartered Tax Institute Malaysia. We're going for a short break and there's more to come, so stay tuned. Welcome back to On the Table. We're talking to Mr. Harvinder Singh, Council Member of Chartered Tax Institute Malaysia. Thank you very much for coming to the studio. Now, moving on to our next question, when it comes to, of course, excise duty and also local alcohol and tobacco, which is going up sharply. What is the first such increase in it's almost a decade, apparently? And from a fiscal and behavioral standpoint, will these measures actually generally raise the revenue? Or are we likely to be sidetracked when it comes to this? What do you think, Mr. Harvinder?
Well, yeah, like I said, it's been some time before such, since such an increase was introduced. While it can boost revenue, I think the challenge obviously lies in the enforcement and border control as well. And without anti-smuggling measures, for example, higher prices could drive the black market activity, right? And so it's about balance, combining the tax increases with tighter monitoring and public awareness as well. Of course, if implemented well, these measures can improve health outcomes and revenue collection. And in other countries, like in Australia, just as an example, as a comparison, sin taxes have actually seen excellent results in terms of lowering the consumption levels in Australia and New Zealand. Australia's rate of tobacco excise climbed from 19 cents in 1999 to about $1.16, right? And apparently it climbs by 5% every year. And so during that period of that rise in the price of the excise duties, the proportion of Australians aged 14 and over who smoke daily plummeted from 22% to 11%. And similar results in New Zealand as well. So it is an effective way to look at reducing the consumption of tobacco, so that hopefully public health is managed better and all that. But it really is going to boil down to whether the pricing can be managed. So instead of having, like right now with this increase, the industry players will have to try to manage the affordability factor as well for consumers. If there is some sort of multi-year plan on how you want to introduce and maybe increase the sin taxes over a period of time, it gives the industry players sufficient time to maybe, things like look for cheaper raw material perhaps, or improve their processes so that the costing and the cost can be managed. Because with this increase, then, and if there's no control of the smuggling activity, the result is that you're probably not going to have that hoped for increase in taxes. At the same time, the reduction in the usage of cigarettes and tobacco may not necessarily go down as well.
So it all boils down to the individual as well, whether we can see to change or not in their habits as well.
Of course, yeah.
We're seeing a generous income tax exemption as well for tour operators and international event organizers under this budget. Now, how significant are these tax breaks in helping Malaysia rebuild its tourism and events industries, especially with Visit Malaysia Year 2026 coming up?
Yeah, I think it is actually timely, and these industries were very badly affected by the pandemic, and so there's a need to sort of revive and to boost this sector as well, the tourism sector. So with like I said, Visit Malaysia Year 2026 approaching, this can help rebuild the tourism and the MICE sector, meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions sector that were really hard hit by the pandemic. So it's a signal that Malaysia is serious about reviving services exports and positioning itself as a regional tourism and events hub again. Right.
Now, we're also seeing the nationwide rollout of e-invoicing and also a new self-assessment system for stamp duty by mid-2026. How will these digital measures change tax compliance in Malaysia, especially for SMEs? And do they really help broaden the tax base without adding new taxes?
Well, I think e-invoicing, the term I normally use to describe invoicing, it's basically a game changer for compliance, tax compliance in Malaysia. And the hard work has been put in by the government and most of the players. The guinea pigs were those that initially started off. But I think at this point in time, e-invoicing has become, I think, in terms of the gadgets and the apps, etc., that are there, they are affordable, they are easy to use, they're very friendly. It's almost like using JomPay at when you go to the fresh market with the QR codes, etc. A lot of that, the scanning itself will assist to capture the information, the details of the parties that are taking part in the transaction. So it has actually evolved to something that I feel is user-friendly, and it's within the reach of most of the businesses. There are still some grouses, there's still some trepidation in terms of the costing and the mechanism of it. But I think quite a bit of that is probably ill-placed, right? So anyway, this idea of digitalization of the tax systems, basically it is modernizing Malaysia's tax system. For SMEs, it might be, a little bit of an adjustment at first, but I think the long-term payoff is that it will reduce paperwork, improve transparency, will enable them to have, better financial records to apply for SME financing, etc. It will be, it will certainly assist with that as well.
Yeah.
So for the government, the digital tools broaden the tax base without introducing new taxes, and ensures more accurate reporting and closing loopholes, and hopefully the shadow economy would basically start, they're able to shift the shadow economy or the participants of shadow economy onto the system as well. Yeah.
Now, budget 2026 expects higher exercise duty revenue, about 12.8 billion ringgit. Now, on electric vehicles or EV, Malaysia is phasing out its tax breaks for fully built-up import EVs. Do you see this as a smart fiscal timing, or might it risk dampening the public interest just as Malaysians are starting to warm up to electric cars?
Well, I think electrical cars, EV cars have been around for some time now. And there are many, many new choices are coming in, and they are priced very, I think, competitively as well. And I think it's not going to be possible to keep giving the exemptions on an indefinite basis. So phasing out these tax breaks on imported EVs is a bit of a natural progression, I feel. It would encourage local assembly and value chain development rather than long-term reliance on imports. That's the idea behind this. While it may slow the adoption perhaps in the short term, I think again it's fiscally responsible and aligned with Malaysia's industrial policy to build its own EV ecosystem as well as we go down the track. So the key would be to maintain other non-tax incentives, like ensuring that there are sufficient charging infrastructure, financial support for the industry as well to sustain public interest. Yeah.
Now, 46.5 billion ringgit has been set for health, with higher on-call allowances and also permanent posts for 4,500 doctors and nearly 1,000 nurses. Now, what does this signal about the government's priorities, and can the system really actually deliver healthcare outcomes in the long run with this?
Firstly, I think the 46.5 billion allocation is, is quite big in its absolute numbers itself. It's the second highest allocation after the education industry, I believe. But speaking to some of the stakeholders in this industry, they have basically been making calls for the public expenditure on healthcare to be, relative to GDP, to be at about 5% of GDP, because that's the level that typically the most developed countries have. But currently it's at about 2.4%, and there is still a need for this to be breached, right? For the gap to be breached. There is also this call that there should be some sort of maybe 5-year plan to reach the target of 5%, so that you have some sort of commitment towards reaching that. Just like we have the commitment to have the deficit reduced to 3% of the GDP by 2028. So something along those lines. So that is one of the things that are typically followed up by the relevant bodies as well. And the increase in the the allowances for the on-call doctors, I think it's about a 40% increase across the board. It is only after 11 years now that such an increase has taken place. So again, I don't think it should wait for so long. There should be a periodic review, right, of these increases over time. There is a shortage of doctors, right, and the other issue that is that needs to be managed is this the contract doctors, right. We know that about 4,500 permanent posts are being created to convert these contract doctors to permanent positions. But there are calls to actually do away with this contract doctors, concept or framework altogether, and go back to what it was like about 10 years ago, where you start off as a permanent doctor, because it ensures job security.
Yes.
You want to buy a house, you have this, the ability to do that as well. Yeah. Because here they're left in a bit of a big limbo sometimes. So that is something that is also important, and in time to come, hopefully within the next few years, all these contract doctors can be converted to permanent positions, and you start off on a permanent basis as well. And on top of that, I think if you talk about the infrastructure, a lot of the hospitals are in a dilapidated state. There are repairs that are required, so money and funding that needs to come in for that as well. So it is a step in the right direction, but there is still quite a bit to be achieved, right? When it comes to talking about doctors, I think especially in East Malaysia, there's really a shortage of doctors, and I know of some doctors who end up working or being on call for 24 hours, and then they're going to continue working for another 8 to 9 hours. It's quite mind-boggling that, in this day and age with all these facilities that we have and the spending power to a certain extent we are grappling with these issues. How do you expect the doctor to be, in a peak condition to be able to, we are talking about dealing with lives over here sometimes, right? So it's, there's some structural, I think, reform as far as that is concerned that really needs to come in.
I think exactly what you said, Mr. Harvinder. We need to. There's lots of opportunity to grow, as well as lots of facilities needs to upgrade it as well. Do you think that the amount that has been allocated for the Ministry of Health, do you think it's sufficient enough to actually grow what has already been grown, or how? Do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's a step in the right direction. We cannot deny the fact that it's quite a big sum, but then when you compare it to the, as a proportion of the GDP, and we're looking at best practices, there is a gap that needs to be, breached or needs to be managed. Like I said, currently it is at about 2.4% public expenditure. Private expenditure is something else altogether, right? But public expenditure coming in from fiscal spending, that is, maybe there should be a 5-year, sort of plan to reach that 5% optimum, sort of level. So there is definitely room for growth. There's definitely room for, further spending in this very important sector. We want to, obviously we don't want to lose the talent, right? But a lot of that is happening, a lot of grouses, right? Where the doctors, young doctors, we are losing them to overseas facilities, we're losing them to private sector, and you can't blame them for that. So, but we shouldn't be, in a situation like that. So, that is something perhaps that can be managed. and should be looked at. I'm sure the government
has thought of it, but it takes time also to get proper research.
Yeah. But we've got to keep knocking on the door all the time.
Now, as we wrap up, every budget looks good on paper, obviously, and but the real challenge lies in its execution, just like how you said, Mr. Harvindra. Yeah. From your perspective, what gives you confidence that the measures announced under Budget 2026 can truly translate into impact for businesses and ultimately the Rakyat?
Yeah, well, everything looks very good on paper, but execution is key, and execution is everything, as we know. But I would say that if you talk about what gives me confidence, I think these measures are targeted. They are digital, reform-driven. There is this use of IT and technology. So, it becomes, I think, it's data-driven. So it is a lot more. I think there is this confidence that things will start being implemented the way it should, right? So the shift towards data-driven delivery and digital governance, transparent monitoring can make a real difference. And I think if the government maintains this momentum and accountability, then these measures can truly eventually translate into impact for the Rakyat as well as for businesses as well. Mm-hmm. So I think, I have the confidence that these measures can be rolled out and implemented to a large extent as planned.
Now, before we end, of course, just have one more question. You mentioned that one of the confidence that you have in terms of Budget 2026 is particularly when it comes to the operations of it. Now, in your perspective, do you think if a change of government or a change of, let's say, strategy would affect the current confidence that you have in terms of Budget 2026? What if there's sudden changes in 2027?
Well, I think we are currently, in that political climate where anything is possible. Yeah. But what is important and what I think has been learned from previous mishaps also is that if there is a good system in place, you should not disturb it. And so if you talk about consumption taxes, it was somehow, eliminated or, done away with for a while, but there have been constant calls for GST to come back, right? So it should be, if the measures that have been put in by the present government are working, they are effective, then we should not go for not pandering to the Rakyat with all kinds of promises that really do not work for the country, right? So as Malaysians, that is our hope, that is our wish, that the good reforms that have been put in place, they should actually work well for the subsequent governments as well. Mm. There shouldn't be a need to stop halfway. Yeah. Because whatever you do, you talk about e-invoicing, money has been spent, efforts have been put in, and initial grouses, I think, have sort of subsided. Mm. There's still a bit of noise. I'm not belittling the concerns of SMEs as well when it comes to this, but, this is... it's about educating, about informing, and about getting that information out on how actually they can actually manage it quite well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harvindra, for that explanation. Really appreciate it. And that's all the time that we have for On the Table this evening. We've been talking to Harvindra Singh, Council Member, Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia on Budget 2026. A repeat of this episode's broadcast can be viewed at the same time tomorrow and subsequent day on both Berita RTM YouTube channel and RTM Click. Till then, I'm Otto Othman, signing off.